Hi, my name's Leonie Bolt, and I went from high school troublemaker and long-time backpacker to accidental entrepreneur. After 15 years working as a professional photographer and running my own studio, I grew into becoming a personal empowerment and business mentor to help other women to follow their passions and find their purpose too. I've learnt to pave my own way through life, and now I empower others to do the same, to break through their limiting beliefs and empower them to shine. Welcome to the Empowered to Shine podcast, where we dive deep into creating a life by your own design. Hey, and welcome back. So our guest today is Anthea Alexander, and she is an emotional wellbeing mentor that helps women to deal with their growth emotionally. And she's going to tell you a little bit about her story and what's brought her to this point in helping women to grow and deal with their emotions. Welcome, Anthea.
Thank you so much, Leonie, and I'm delighted to be here with you today and your listeners. So in terms of my journey, I'm also training to become a naturopath, and around 14 years ago, I had an experience with chronic pain that was highly disabling and sort of hit me like a lightning bolt from out of the blue. And it really stopped me in my tracks and made me just basically have to reconsider my path in life. I couldn't do much. I had a lot of time to think all of a sudden, going from being a busy wife, going to the gym, being involved in this, full-time work, thought I was on the right career path. Bang, all stopped, reconsidered, decided that when I was able to, I really wanted to study natural medicine because I wasn't getting a lot of support from the traditional medicine healthcare system, which is no fault of theirs. However, the benefits I was experiencing were through things like Chinese medicine, traditional Chinese medicine, acupuncture, nutrition, sleep, diet, lifestyle. Decided I wanted to study to become a naturopath, and I'm 6 years along in an 8-year degree.
Excellent. Yeah, it's tough, I know, because I think we spoke about it the other day. Yeah. I started doing the degree in natural medicine. I started doing it by correspondence, which I found very hard. And then I did the first year, and then I thought I'd take another gap year, and 6 years later, I was still running around with my backpack and was a completely different person.
Yeah.
But I still, I still know that there's so many other ways that we can, deal with things. And I think the common theme that a lot of the ladies that have been coming on the podcast, we've been dealing with energy and emotions and all of those different levels of mindset that what we're not used to performing in.
Yeah, for sure. And especially with COVID, I mean, that's just added a completely different dimension where almost like with my journey with chronic pain, people have had to stop and look at things that perhaps they've been running away from, distracting themselves from. So it has been a bit of an uncomfortable and disruptive and difficult, challenging time for people. So basically 2 years ago, I developed my own business as an emotional wellbeing mentor because I was looking for something else to do. And originally my idea and vision still is, but working towards it, is to have a self-care retreat centre for women in Bali to come to and really recharge themselves, get themselves all sort of rejuvenated and renewed and ready to continue with life, like have beautiful nutrition and massage and therapies and yoga, which is something I've been fortunate and blessed enough to do personally, and it's been enormously helpful. So I'd really love to facilitate that for women. In the meantime, I had lunch with a friend who's an entrepreneur and talked with her about my vision. And she said, that sounds amazing, Anthea, but why don't you just start small? Try some, smaller workshops, maybe in Australia, maybe not overseas straight away, and see how you like it, see how it feels. So I basically started doing some group workshops. They worked really, really well. And then 2020 hit and everything sort of was put on pause or moved online. Unfortunately, I was able to move my business online, and I have run a number of really beautiful and impactful workshops for women. And since then, I have really tailored my business and my services towards women who are healers and, or, female health and wellness professionals, however they may like to describe themselves, but essentially helping others to heal, facilitating healing. And I'm doing that now one-on-one online, and seeing beautiful transformations in my clients and really, really loving it.
Awesome. And yeah, the fact that you're focusing on the healers themselves, it's like anything, isn't it? You give so much to everybody else in whatever your profession is that you forget to do it for yourself.
For sure. And I think as women, we are hardwired to do that. Like, it's in our genes to care. That's part of, how we're designed. I'm not saying that men don't care, because men can be very nurturing as well. However, as women, it's really, sometimes to the point of us losing out. For example, me getting so sick back in 2006 because I was putting everything before my own health. And then the healing aspect as well. I think that there's that extra pressure and stress and desire to help people. And sometimes it's not even a desire. It's like a mission or a calling to help people. So it's a drive that these women have. So I really want to support them to be able to continue showing up for themselves and for other people in their own personal relationships and their clients and patients as well.
Absolutely. And the disease that manifests in our bodies is not always something that's hereditary. Obviously, if you're giving to everyone else and not giving back to yourself, you're bottling things up, you're not dealing with things maybe the way that you should, and that can then manifest into some form of disease or pain, can't it?
It most definitely can. And with my own experience, I think there were a whole range of emotions that I just basically put in a box and said, I'll deal with you later. And eventually they just said, no, Anthea, you're going to deal with this now. And that was the way that my being stopped me, because otherwise I just would have kept going. And I don't think I'm alone. I think a lot of women are like that too. They'll just keep going until there's a really, really basically a health scare for them to stop and to look within and to make alternative decisions. So for me, my emotions, suppressed emotions, manifested themselves as pain. But with studying naturopathy, I can see that there's it's like an entanglement of the physical and the spiritual and the emotional and mental. I mean, because as naturopaths and we look at the body holistically. So a person is not just a liver or not just a left foot. They're the combination of everything. And you talked about energy before. So there's energy, auras, and so much. So basically, I can understand what happened at a better level in hindsight. But first of all, I was experiencing symptoms of anxiety and feeling very fearful. And I just kept pushing it aside, got to the point where I basically was sort of dry retching and couldn't function. And then had counselling, resigned from my job, doing okay for a couple of months, and then bang, the chronic facial pain, which I still have, which I manage much, much better. So our emotions, so powerful. And so as a result, I've done a lot of inner work in that time, especially in the last couple of years, while I've been doing this work to help other women. And basically, yeah, so I think it's about processing our emotions as rawly and as quickly as we can, not storing them up or suppressing them, where they're going to just stay there until we do something with them. So it's about processing them. It's about allowing ourselves to feel, even if it's uncomfortable. And so an example of an emotion that can be quite uncomfortable to feel, I talked about fear before. I was experiencing these, just irrational levels of fear that horrible things were going to happen, but they weren't rational. But it was my body, my emotions saying, "Slow down, Anthea. Just what is it going to take to get you to stop?" So I wrote an article about how to make friends with your fear last year, and it was published in Thrive Global publication and online. And basically I talk about 3 tips to make friends with our fear, because if we resist things, if we push them away, if we run away from them, they're just going to stay there. So it's easier to just lean into it, make friends with your fear. It's a slow process. Start by acknowledging it, being aware when it's there, when you're feeling it, and then a practical thing that we can do, the physiological thing that works, is to slow down our nervous system, because when we feel fearful, we go into our flight mode, and our nervous system is, experiencing a very real threat. So it's basically about slowing down our breathing in for 6 and breathing out for 6. And it's about doing that basically through your nose. And then there's variations on that. But basically, being aware of your fear, starting to slow that breathing down. And then the third tip that I would love to share, and that I've shared in the article, which is really, really helpful, is about focusing on what we want and not what we don't want. Because often when we're fearful and our nervous system's sort of gone haywire, and we can start focusing and amplifying that on what can go wrong. What if this terrible thing happens? And that's probably what was happening with me when I was experiencing that anxiety before my chronic facial pain. So it's about focusing on what we want, because energetically, what we focus on, that's where our energy flows. That's what we're more likely to attract into our lives. And we can do that in a whole range of ways that I won't go into now, but really beneficial if people can, get something out of those 3 tips. They're very, very helpful in dealing with fear.
Absolutely. Breath work is really quite a strong thing that we can use, that's really super simple. And, we're breathing all the time, but that's where, those mindfulness practices and meditation and everything come into it, because obviously breathing is one of those things that is just super simple for us to come back and feel into what we're feeling and deal with those emotions. So that's super powerful. And I know on the other end of the scale, when you suppress emotions, sometimes you can get to the point where you've suppressed everything so much that you just don't feel anymore. And that's not a great place to be either, because you're still having those emotions, but not processing them is going to be even worse in manifesting into something stronger.
Definitely. And that numbness, I think I've experienced it, and you just don't know where you are, what you're wanting to do, feeling quite lost and confused. And and that's where it can really be beneficial to have someone that you trust to hold your hand and say, well, just sit still for a minute, close your eyes. What are you feeling now? Just breathe, just gently start to look at it, start to feel it. If it feels too scary, you can move away, that's fine. And then doing it at your own pace or at your client's own pace, really super gentle from a place of compassion and love and respect and forgiveness. I think forgiveness is so crucial, Leonie, because there's so many things that I think we're really hard on ourselves about, and we feel like, I don't get this right. Why didn't I do that right? Why haven't I achieved this, career level by age 30? And we're not perfect. We're human beings. We're fallible. That's like the beauty of us, that we're meant to make mistakes and learn and keep evolving. So, it's quite complex, and it's about being compassionate and forgiving. And just what I would love to share is that we can become so frightened of looking at things that we just, we can't go there for whatever reason. However, from my experience and doing it with a coach and doing it with my clients, that it is actually less frightening to start to look at the things than it is to be frightened of the fear or whatever it is you're not quite sure don't want to look at. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just, at the end of the day, it's the connections in our brain that have taken, so feelings and emotions are obviously different things. You feel something, you associate it to something in your brain, potentially creates that fear, which is, you've just got to redesign your subconscious links so that that fear then dissipates. Because, there really is nothing to be fearful of, is there?
That's exactly right. And look, our brains are just trying to protect us. And that's another thing. It's about being compassionate with our brains, because our brains, in terms of protecting us, like they're very clever, and they can get our bodies to do all sorts of amazing protective measures. Like if we stub our toe to, we might experience pain that is actually coming from our brain. Interestingly enough, it's not coming from the toe, to get us to stop and look at what's going on, because it could actually be a snake that's bitten us. We need to assess, however, our brain doesn't always get it right. Our brain is basically operating with the information that it's got. So, it's there, and that neuroplasticity is quite fascinating, and we can change our patterns. And the other thing I'd love to add is that basically, if we're in a situation and there might be two things going on at the same time, what's an example? I'll give an example. So with my chronic facial pain, when I get cold, my pain is triggered off. So at somewhere along the line, my brain has connected cold and pain. So, and cold, there's nothing to be fearful for me about cold, but there's this association with my neural pathways in my brain that says, when cold happens, brain, you've got to trigger off pain to let Anthea know she's under threat, and it's not quite right. It's a bit haywire.
I have a friend that had a reaction to oranges or anything citrus, and it was actually a generational emotional thing that once she dealt with that, she can now have a glass of orange juice.
How fascinating. Yeah. And that is actually a real thing. And like, it sounds like I would be surmising, but there's some connection with oranges, with the smell of oranges, with the sight of them, that is, was a threat. And then that threat is, or trauma is basically imprinted in our cells, and our DNA is changed as a result of it. And then that can carry on generations, as you said. So, and that is another fascinating area that I'm really loving exploring myself personally at this stage, but I'd love to explore more with my clients in terms of ancestral healing and healing those issues that we are actually carrying around with us that we don't even perhaps know about. That could be quite unconscious, subconscious, and that's a perfect example of it, that connection with the orange.
Yeah, the ancestral baggage. And figuring out how to find it and deal with it.
Yeah, find it, deal with it, heal with it, heal it. However, I've experienced some amazing personal shifts in relation to even being aware of it, and working in whatever way you feel safe. And there are experts in that field, who can really, really guide you and support you on your journey if that's something that you're wanting to do.
Exactly. And if you deal with it, the beauty of that is it's no longer baggage for future generations, because you've taken on yourself to deal with it.
Exactly. And then they also say that some teachers say that it can be as powerful that you actually heal back into your generations as well. So you're healing yourself, you're healing for future generations. It goes in all directions of time. So that's amazing.
That's so exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, very powerful and transformational.
All right, Anthea, if our listeners want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to find you?
Okay, so the best way for them to find me is to, they can email me at info@antheaalexander.com.
Mm-hmm.
They can also check out my website, which is www.antheaalexander.com. And I will also share my social links with you for Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I have a beautiful women's group for female healers and health and wellness professionals. It's about 830 women from all over the world that have joined my group, and I'm very open and willing for ladies who are interested to contact me, and I'd love them to join the group as well.
Excellent. So we'll put those links in the show notes. If you head over to theonlybolt.com/podcasts, you'll be able to find this episode and all of Anthea's links so that you can go and find her. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your knowledge with us today, Anthea. It's been great having you on the show.
You're so welcome, Leonie, and thank you for the beautiful, generous opportunity of allowing me to share.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to the Empowered to Shine podcast. My name's Leonie Bolt, and I'm glad that you were able to join us today. I hope you got some serious inspiration from today's episode. If you'd like to find more episodes, go to leoniebolt.com/podcasts or start subscribing on your favorite podcast streaming channel. I look forward to seeing you again soon.